do you watch your own movies back?
I love them.
You love them.
I love my movies.
If you had the chance to walk off with $500,000, would you take it?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
What's your name?
Django.
If they hadn't done what I told them not to do, they'd still be alive.
We're gonna be doing one thing and one thing only. Killing Nazis. Sound good? Yes, sir!
Is it safe?
Oh, it's better than safe. It's death-proof.
We get into a fight, I accidentally kill you, I go to jail.
Anybody accidentally kills anybody in a fight, they go to jail. It's called manslaughter.
One of them fellas is not what he says he is.
Hard part's over.
Like these movies.
I'm not them. I'm very happy with my work.
All right, tonight, as you saw, we have a man who knows how to make an entrance and an exit, a director, a writer, sometimes a ghost director, sometimes a ghost writer. Started out working in a video rental store. We don't have those anymore, but thank God we still have him. He is controversial because I know somebody's going to hate him. Somebody's going to love him. Find out what we think. We're starting now. Coming up with me is, in this order, the executive consultant, the next doctor. And Chris, play our intro, please, if you would. We are trying something new. We have taken some of our hosts and held them captive in the bowels of Tartarus. 3 of us remain, ruling the universe. Tonight, we're going to do a director spotlight, Quentin Tarantino, as I said earlier. We're going to talk about what we love, what we didn't, movies that we saw, movies that we didn't, quote galore. Chris, this is for you. And we hope that you will take this ride with us. And we will perhaps do this again next month. We'll see. We don't know yet. I'm going to start with somebody who's going to start it off early in this man's career, starting with a movie called Pulp Fiction. Maybe I'll put him on the map. The next doctor, sir, what do you think?
Pulp Fiction. So one of the things that I love about Quentin Tarantino is his world building, and the way he does it with dialogue, and this was probably the first movie that I saw of his, and I was instantly hooked. It wasn't just about the action scenes, which were great. It was about the dialogue between the characters. It really lets you know who they were, like past kind of the movie, if you will. They had lives outside of that particular scene. And I really like the way that they did that. Oftentimes you'll see, okay, the transition of going from one place to the next is just done with, maybe a quick shot, some music, but they're actually people that are talking as they're going about their day, as they're doing their job. Case in point, you've got Jules and Vincent, they're going to the apartment and, they get out the car. We can see, okay, 2 guys getting out the car. They go to the trunk. Like, man, how many guys are up there? He's Vin's talking about, man, we should have had shotguns for this. They just got the pistols. They're walking up there. They're talking about, their lives. They're talking about their boss. They're talking about things that are going on. And, they're doing all this, just natural conversation as they're on their way to handle business, which is obviously serious business if he's talking about, bringing shotguns. And I really like that he will include that, kind of humanity in his world building instead of just, having the transition just be, like music and showing people, moving about. That's one of the things I really like about it. And it was definitely showcased in Pulp Fiction. Not just there, the drive to the diner with Jules and forgot her character's name, but Uma Thurman's character, that whole setup of who, showcasing like
I think it was Mia, right?
Say again?
Mia, I think, right?
That's probably right. Showcasing who she is, right out the bat. You get all of this great dialogue. It doesn't just, move the movie forward, but it gives you that background and it gives you that buy-in to suck you into the world.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of his hallmarks. You know that when you go to see one of his movies, you're going to have that dialogue. You're going to get sucked into the world. It's going to be characters that are believable. And you're going to be able to suspend that belief that much more because you got that buy-in. I think that's really one of his strongest suits.
I think that's very true. I got to piggyback what you said. I think you're spot on because if you look at Pulp Fiction, especially coming from other cinema at the time in the West, it wasn't so stylized and it wasn't so surreal. Okay. A lot of times people say it's in its own universe. Okay. And that's why you have to suspend disbelief a little bit more. But if we just saw Jules just go in there and start quoting scripture like that, we would say, this is too much. What are we doing? But like you said, and to your point, the movie doesn't start there. Tarantino knows that he has to start it when they're in the car, on the way up in the elevator, and just walking to do their job. It's not even like they're hitmen or like they're enforcers. They're just two guys, two friends who have been working and know each other a long, long time. And they're just catching up. Maybe they haven't seen each other for a minute, but it's as if we've been with these characters for 2 weeks prior to the start of this movie, which helps in that movie because it's in a non-linear, it's told in a non-linear fashion. So you already feel like you have a leg up and you're not so far behind trying to play catch up. I really think that's a great point.
And, to your point, after in the actual apartment, after, there's, he gives that part where he, they quote the scripture, he shoots the guy, but then when it cuts to that scene later on, the one guy that they didn't realize was in the bathroom, he comes out with the hand cannon, shoots him, misses, and then they have that conversation about this is a miracle, and it's believable because of the characters. They were just having a conversation before they went in, and they just killed someone, and then they just go into a conversation about, hey, we got to talk about this. This was a miracle. And he's like, it was just something that happened, and you can see that, kind of camaraderie, that friction that comes with people that know each other for so long. Like, nah, man, you can't just blow this off. Like, you can believe that they would take it. At least Vincent's character would take the time and say, hey, yeah, this was something. And, he definitely gives you that payoff with the prior conversation leading up to that.
Yeah.
And I think that's definitely one of his strong suits again.
Like we teased earlier, this is his first movie, directing. And he has a lot of a big cast in this. Salute to him for being able to wrangle all those personalities and character talents to make a cohesive film. Chris, I don't know if you've ever seen Pulp Fiction, but this is a movie like quotes galore, and this really, really sets it off. But another thing that people don't realize with Tarantino is sometimes studios can't figure out a script, right? Or there's a scene that they need some work on, and he's actually done some script work on some films. And there was one, I didn't get a chance to pull the clip, but if you've ever seen a movie called Crimson Tide, there's a scene with Gene Hackman and Denzel Washington's characters. They play the captain and commander of a nuclear submarine. And it's a tense standoff. I don't want to give away the plot of the movie, but they're having subtext within subtext. And if you've ever seen Tarantino's movies, that's what it's all about. And they use something innocuous these Spanish horses as content or as subtext for what they're really talking about and the power play that's going on in the movie, specifically in that scene. And it's so damn tense. And I wish that I had a clip of it, but it's so, so good. And in Pulp Fiction, and we'll see this throughout his work, okay, because I'm sure something's going to be brought up at a certain point. But in some of the movies that I want to highlight, where there's so much social and current cultural subtext in it, that is so beautifully done. And it's one of the reasons why I love his movies. I know that you want to touch on some other ones of his, specifically some of his writing. We got Dusk Till Dawn, I think, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the reason why I wanted to bring up From Dusk Till Dawn is another kind of hallmark of Tarantino. Even though he didn't direct that one, as you mentioned, he wrote it. He is it showcased in my background. It's well known that he has like a thing about feet, like he loves feet, and you got to give the man credit to write himself into a scene with probably one of the hottest actresses of the time, Salma Hayek, as she's pouring, I believe, whiskey down her body to her feet, and he's sucking her toes. Like that's next level. To be able to write that in, to be able to showcase and be able to experience your foot fetish with Salma Hayek, that's incredible. And going back to just to showcase that he does put it in, I think probably not Reservoir Dogs, because that's just all guys there. I don't think there's any talk about it. But even in Pulp Fiction, during the that same conversation I mentioned earlier, they're talking about feet. They're talking about foot massage. I believe also Uma Thurman later in the movie shows her feet. And in another movie I'll touch on later, there's even little hints of it in there as well. It's definitely a theme throughout his movies, but I think I really wanted to showcase From Dusk Till Dawn because I think that was probably the pinnacle of him being able to experience his foot fetish, not just on scene, with Salma Hayek of all people. I thought that was
but he's actually a great actor in that movie.
Yeah, and he's
really, really good.
It is just when you go back and you see it later, it's like, okay, I mean, the scene works for what the scene is. It's not like it's just out of the blue. It definitely works for what it's doing, but I think it's a masterful stroke to write yourself into it so you can experience that.
Shout out to him and his concentration, because if that's really his thing, right? He would have been bricked the whole scene. I don't want to be too, I don't want to be too graphic, but like shout out to him for being able to focus on the scene, on the job, keep it professional, and still get what he wanted out of that scene. He had to be smiling the whole way home that night,
I wonder how many takes they did though.
You got to do at least two.
You know what? It's because you got to get it different angles. You got to shoot at this angle, and you got
the action shots,
Yeah, so it's like, what? That was pretty good, but a director, I don't think I was really in the moment. Can we just run that one back again?
That's his boy Robert Rodriguez, so he probably knew we need at least 5 takes on this one. We need at least 5 takes on this one. Shout out to Salma Hayek, who was also afraid of snakes and thought that it was going to be, I forget the story, but I think she thought that it was going to either be fake or something else. And then they told her at the last minute, no, we're going to have to put a snake on you. And she was freaking out, but you would never know it. You would never know it because she plays it so well. And she's incredible in that scene.
I mean, and it goes back to what you were saying earlier about talent. He puts in, well, even though this one was, written by him, but still he works with great talent. There's talent there, talent all through Pulp Fiction. I mean, you're going to be talking about Kill Bill, talent like everywhere. And they get utilized very well with his scripts.
Yeah.
His directing.
I I think Chris is a little bit busy right now, either that or frozen like I was last week. But let me jump in here with some Kill Bill. We'll go in a non-linear fashion. Coming up, Kill Bill was probably my favorite of his movies. Okay. Why? Love anime. Always want to go to Japan. I don't know why black people love Japan so much, but shout out to the Japanese.
Shout out to Japanese in anime.
Yeah, I don't know. It's something in DBZ. They put in DBZ and Toonami. I don't know, but that was my favorite movie. And between Volume 1 and Volume 2, because back then I didn't think they had the whole bloody affair. I wasn't aware of it. I preferred Volume 1. Now, as I got older, and I loved dialogue so much more, I preferred Volume 2. So I'm going to highlight Volume 2. I think Chris is going to highlight Volume 1 more so. The reason I love Volume 2, there are two main sequences that I absolutely love. One is the cruel tutelage of Paimei. Okay? The setup for that, okay, which is shown after she's in a situation. And it's a complete cut. What are we doing? She was just buried alive. Why are we here? Right? Even going up to leading up to her with Bud, and you see Bud in Crappy Life. I was about to say another word, right? And how his boss talks to him. It's hilarious. That scene is hilarious. Okay.
The fake out of having sold the sword when he really didn't.
Yeah, he didn't.
Just to get under his
skin. The only man I ever loved Bill. And I know, to the only man I ever loved, Bill. And then when he is the boss is like, why are you always late? He says, because there's nobody here. And he says, so you think because nobody's here, you don't have to show up to work on time? And then he says, how about I just take some money? That's the only thing you people care about. And he starts crossing the X's, and then he just squiggles out the whole calendar. Yeah, see, when I mess with your money, then you'll start to care. And Bud, you could see he wants to kill this guy / he's making a fair point, you know what I mean? But he's like, I don't even care / I do care, you know what I mean? His life is crap. But that whole sequence going up to the cruel tutelage of Paimei. And one particular scene, when she's finally learning the steps and getting it, and they do that side-by-side shot, and she's mirroring his moves. If you look, she's almost exactly what he's doing, but a little bit off. And it's so beautifully done. The shot I think an orange backdrop, and they're done in a darker silhouette. It's reminiscent of what you see in Volume 2 in the House of Fallen Leaves, I think it is. But when it's all blue and they're fighting in their darkened silhouette. But it's so well done. And then how she escapes out the casket. The guy's across the street from the cemetery in this diner working the night shift by himself and sees just the dust falling off her. And she's like, a glass of water, please. He just loses it. It's so surreal, but it's hilarious to me. But the dialogue is great. El Driver is fantastic in that. Bud, you even root for, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. When she salivates over gargantuan, that's a word that you don't get to use very often. I love that word. How she says, and when you think of it, yeah, that's true. You don't get to use gargantuan. You know what I mean? He loves wordplay. And then when she finally meets Bill, and we have the breakdown of Superman, according to Bill. And it makes so much sense. And then you say, well, damn, I like this Bill. What, can you forgive him almost, It's just a great, great film. And I actually love Volume 2 more now because of the dialogue alone than I do Volume 1. Okay. But Chris, please tell me, why do you want to highlight Volume 1? What do you like about that?
Because Kill Bill 1 and 2 were really bad movies, and I want to highlight Volume 1 simply because of the fact that it's the beginning of what I call the end. I watched the movie, and I watched it backwards, actually. I watched Kill Bill 2 first. Then I watched Kill Bill 1, right? I saw Kill Bill 2. And my friends dragged me up to see it. I didn't really want to see it. And I saw it. I was like, okay, well, maybe it'll be interesting. It was not. But then my friends were like, you know what? Kill Bill 1 was actually a little bit better. You'll like Kill Bill 1. I was like, okay, let's give it a try. Well, long story short, I wish I never gave it a try. I saw somebody laying in a van or something saying, wiggle your left toe. Mm-hmm.
Wiggle your big
And
toe.
and I was wiggling my brain of why I was here. Right. I don't get it. But this is Tarantino's mindset, is to have pointless scenes with no substance. Something I learned when I was training for this new job that I've been taking on is called sell the sizzle with the steak. And I've been saying that a lot the last 2 weeks because it's so true. This man gives me too much sizzle with no steak. No steak at all. Right? No steak. Just a sizzle. I'm watching it. I'm like, oh, this should be interesting. It's like a Dragon Ball Z episode. Nothing happens. And when it happens, it's anticlimactic. It's why I don't like anime now. This was full of it. So when I looked at this stuff and said, what have I seen? Oh, there's something I've seen. Kill Bill. Let me go ahead and talk. You know why it's blurred out? Because it's crap. So you can just take it off the screen right now, okay?
Samurai
Anime is not good. Kill Bill 1 is not good. Kill Bill 2 is not good. Quentin Tarantino, what do you be thinking? I watched Pulp Fiction, which we reviewed a couple weeks ago. And I said, you know what? I gave it a thumbs up because it was entertaining, but at the same time, what the hell was that about? It highlighted the fact that Quentin Tarantino's sick mind wants to rape a black man.
That's what you got from Pulp Fiction?
That's what I got from Pulp Fiction.
Okay. To be fair to that black man, he went medieval on their ass.
He certainly did.
After his ass was medieval with. Like, I don't understand.
Him and his boys. He said, I'm going to call. Oh, he meant every word of that, too. He meant every word. He said, we're going to go medieval. Oh, I would have loved to see the medieval cut. I would have loved to see.
If you look at his movies, you see a lot of racism in his movies. It is not because he secretly hates the African American race or any other race. I don't believe that. But I think it's a matter of control that he would like to have over them. Not like the slavery times, but control he will have over them. He has a jealousy. He's jealous, envious fetish over African American man. I think he wanted to be one at one point in time. That's fine. Most people do.
So you're saying he wrote Get Out?
I think he secretly was behind it. Yeah.
That was a ghostwriter credit.
So Chris, ladies and gentlemen, if you're just tuning in, Chris says that Tarantino and Joe Biden are one of no, I'm joking. But no, stand on it. I have a differing opinion. I think that maybe his films aren't for everyone, yourself included, and that's fair and that's fine. But I think that he gives you the sizzle and the steak. To Rashad's point, the conversation buildup and everything like that, they blasted that room away. So much so that when we see Honey Bunny later in the scene, and Jules is telling, I forget the husband's name in the movie right now, but when he says, "Is that your girl? That's your wife? Tell her to calm down." And we see that
to be cool.
Yeah, we see that John Travolta's character throughout the whole movie, because he has that 8-ball on him all the time, he's so high strung. So that's why he can't see the miracle, because he's riding the miracle right now, baby. He's riding that miracle. Okay.
Until you said that, I didn't realize. Yeah, he was high.
He was high the whole time.
The entire time.
So it's all miraculous. It's all beautiful.
That makes so much sense.
But he's so high strung that he wants to blast everything away. And Jules has actually changed. He's the only character who's actually grown in that movie. Everybody else stays the same, if you notice. So that's my first counterpoint to Chris's argument that he's secretly jealous of black people. Because I argue, if you're secretly jealous and you want to be them, just like in Get Out, soft racism is still racism, whether you want to acquire their bodies for labor or for your own use. It's still the same thing. But I hear you. Any other movie you want to highlight, Chris? Jackie Brown, I know that you saw.
Jackie Brown was starring Pam Grier, which is a really, really good actress who made the movie. So I decided to pick it.
Okay.
Probably one of the better films from Quentin Tarantino. Why I can't say I haven't seen it in 30 years, but probably one of the best films I've seen of Quentin Tarantino. And that's because I had to watch Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2. So it's not hard to defeat that, right? I saw Django. Django was pretty good. I think I said I was going to highlight that. That was really entertaining. I thought Christoph Waltz, that's why I discovered how good an actor he is. kills almost every role. So I'll give a shout out to Django, which is starring a black man that's trying to gain his freedom, also trying to save his wife, because Quentin Tarantino is the best person to tell that story. So
he wrote it.
Yeah, about slavery and a whole bunch of N-words. Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
I disagree that he wrote it about a whole bunch of N-words in the context.
Oh no, let me count how many times they used the N-word in that.
No, you didn't hear what I said. I said I disagree with that he wrote a movie with a whole bunch of N-words, at least with the context that you mean. Not talking about black people where it's normally used or directed at, but I say there's a whole lot of ignorant people in that movie that he highlighted, and it's all throughout that.
Right. To fool the man that he was trying to tell art, and in reality, he was trying to tell you what he wants, what he likes. He likes going around using that, and even in Pulp Fiction, right? He was using that word like I drink water. Ridiculous. Speaking of which, let me take a sip because my mouth gets dry because I'm remembering all this BS you had me watching this Quentin Tarantino guy, right?
I would argue that Christoph Waltz had a better role in the other movie that I wanted to bring up,
Inglourious Bastards, right? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about more hate. Go ahead.
What hate is there? This was several hate Nazis, because
once again masking behind the good so you can defend how he really likes to hate a group of people.
They're Nazis. Listen,
but
I'm not gonna get into this.
That is
because this is the same kind of argument that you can make with Trump. But what I want to showcase is again another.
I'm just saying both their last names is given the letter T.
Another way that he has great world building is the introduction of I don't remember if it was lieutenant or sergeant, but Aldo Rain, Brad Pitt's character. He comes on screen, says who he is, and says what he's there to do. One thing only: killing Nazis. Not only is it great writing there, but he's utilizing spectacular talent. To have him come through and do that speech. I mean, I love that speech. Like the way that he says Nazis, the way that he talks about, you come in, you take on a debt. I want 100 Nazi scalps. You will get me my scalps. I love that scene. That's another quotable right there. Not too many times you get to talk about getting Nazi scalps, but if the opportunity presents itself, I'm gonna use that quote. But again, it's great world building right off the bat. As soon as a character comes in, lets you know what he's about, sets that tone. And I mean, throughout the entire movie, that's kept up. And they showcase another time where he likes his foot fetish. Bridget von Hammerstein, she has a cast on her foot, but her toes are out.
Yeah.
Who does that?
Which is so ridiculous.
It still works because she's supposed to be like this actress, this famous actress, and then you can see it. Okay, it works for the character, but still, she's in a cast. One would think if you're in a cast, you're just going to wear the cast normally, but no, she's got her toes out so that he can have another opportunity to showcase women's feet.
Let me jump in here. I think, and this is why, because last week's episode I mentioned, I don't know if you saw the rebroadcast or stuff, but I have a problem with certain communities use the N-word and nobody else is made fun of. And I said, and it may sound counterintuitive since Tarantino, I wanted to highlight Tarantino and why I don't have a problem with his films. And I don't have a problem with Chris standing on his ground of what he believes and why he believes it, whether I agree with it or not in this case. But Tarantino, what I like about him is he writes true to life. In that scene in Crimson Tide that I didn't delve into earlier to explain, the Denzel Washington, obviously, if you don't know, is a black man, and Gene Hackman, obviously, is a white man. And they're battling over control of the nuclear submarine. Who's going to listen to who? Okay. And when Gene Hackman, as the captain, can't exude his authority and make sure everybody follows, he tries to one up Denzel's character on knowledge. And they mention these horses. I think they're called Amenzola or Amenzola horses, something like that. And they're supposed to be some of the best bred horses in the world. And they can run miles and miles and miles, and they're beautiful. And Gene Hackman says, and they're all white. Okay. And Denzel goes, yes, but they're born black. Okay. It's a banger line. It's a banger scene. But those microaggressions is what you would see today in the military. It's true to life. In Inglourious Bastards, when they do that, to Chris's point about sizzle and steak, in his movies, he'll often give you the comedy, the action. With that, you can couple that with blood, right? But he'll also give you the knowledge. At the end, Colonel Hans Landa, he makes a deal with the U.S. government. Nobody is clean in that. Something that I'll highlight later in Hateful Eight, okay? Which the U.S. government makes. No problem, even though they fought this war and countless hundreds of thousands of Americans have died, 100 million people over around the world have died because of this, right? We know what they've done. The movie has highlighted and expressed it, but they make this deal. This also happened in real life. Okay? If you believe that we went to the moon or space at all, you know how NASA was founded. All right? So he's putting that in there while he's also giving you the sizzle and the steak. It's intentional, right? And then as much as we're rooting for Haldo Raines' group, by the way, originally there was supposed to be the production company wouldn't allow it because it would have been too long or something like that. But he was going to do like his homage to like almost like the Tuskegee Airmen and have a unit of black soldiers in Inglourious Bastards. That's why if you read the comics, they're in there. But it was deemed too long. Okay. But Aldo Raines' crew, they're not the smartest people. They're regular people from America in the 1940s. Okay. And how many times have we heard, oh, I'm part this, I'm part that. So the fact that he wants 100 scouts because he's part Apache, and that's why he wants to honor his heritage that he knows nothing about. He's never grown up on a reservation, never stepped foot, but they told me I'm part Apache. You know what I mean? Pocahontas was my great. He's speaking like Americans speak. The fact that the British soldier who's played by your guy Magneto puts up the wrong 3 instead of the German 3. And all the Germans caught it. Okay? I love that because it's such attention to detail and it's also funny. In it, you get everything in it. You're getting the dessert, you're getting the main course, you're getting the appetizer in it. Okay, I'd like to jump, if you don't mind, to one of mine, Django Unchained, as Chris calls it, the N-word. Okay, now this movie was my favorite. Now it's Hateful Eight. Okay, but it was Django Unchained. Why? Because if you watch it, whenever I watch a movie one time, I just watch it to watch it. To be entertained or whatever, to see it. I got to see it. The second time I watch it, what did I miss? The third time, I'm chewing everything. By this point, I watch this movie because he has so many bars in it. In the opening of the movie, you see King Schultz and he's coming, and there's this slave caravan walking, right? And they have these people who've been walking for miles. That's how the movie opens up. And these two brothers are bringing these people to some slave market. And so when he identifies that one of them is in fact Django, King Schultz, that's Christoph Waltz's character in this movie, he says, Mr. Speck, sold American. Now, it may seem innocuous, but when you're getting to the point where you could chew on the dialogue, sold American, that goes against everything we believe or are said to believe. And yet that is so, so true. The fact that the N-word is used so much in this movie, I don't think that's weird at all. I think that's very, very accurate. if you've done any study of slavery, and I don't want to get too graphic, you know that they stopped the slave trade, importation of Africans to the Americas, to the United States, in the early 1800s. I think like but before 1810, like 1808, something like that. Okay, during Jefferson's presidency. Yet the population increased exponentially. Well, here in Maryland, they have what you call breeding farms. That's okay. I don't know if you're talking about Tarantino. Either way, that's okay. They have breeding farms. Breeding farms where they used to just impregnate black women over and over and over. Sometimes slave owners would tell them, oh, if you give at least 10 or 15 or 20 children, you can go free. So slavery was far more horrific than somebody saying the N-word. By the way, speaking to the point about him writing true to life, I find it inconsistent when I live in the DC area. If I were to get on the metro or the metro bus, and I hear people who look like me, people who are a lighter shade of brown than me. If I was in New York, it would be everybody. Okay, from coast to coast, okay, no matter the background, using the N-word. That's Americana. That's how we speak here. That's what we export from here. So when he says sold American, I'm like, that's a banger line. And again, nobody is clean. When King Schultz later finds out that Broomhilda, Django's wife, he never asked him about his wife. He even says to him, I don't agree with the slavery malarkey, but I'm going to go along with it because then you can't say no to help me find these people. And whether or not we know whether or not they could have gone there before winter or not, he says, no, we'll make some money and then we'll go down there and get your wife. He has no concept to ask them, well, what do they do with your wife, while she's there? She's a woman. What's going to happen to her? But Django knows the whole time. All the white characters in that movie, arguably, other than King Schultz, and even him, he's ignorant by omission from experience. But the other ones, the slavers, right, are ignorant because they choose it. And it's on display. And the smartest people in that whole movie, and arguably in a lot of his movies, are the black people. They know exactly what's going on. It's been said that black people in America, and I would argue the Americas, and even in Africa too, because of colonialization, are the canaries in the coal mine. They say if something happens to the black community, it will happen to the greater, wider community, maybe 20, 30 years later. We've seen this time and again. So again, it's all throughout that. The fact that the true hero is not King Schultz, but is Django, and Django's even better than King Schultz. He knew how to get everybody. He controlled his emotion, whereas King Schultz couldn't. Even though it risked Django and his wife, whom he would say he cared about. But to King Schultz's point, when he found out Broomhilda's owners were German, he couldn't believe it. Because no good German would do this. Yes, they would, and they did. And Tarantino showed it. He absolutely showed it. And I'm going to jump over to Hateful Eight. HBU or Bus, baby. In Hateful Eight, we have Samuel L. Jackson, who in Django Unchained played Stephen, who is also one of the smartest characters in the movie.
I'm just going to chime in. His character was definitely one of the smartest ones.
Yeah.
He was faking it the entire time to survive.
Exactly.
And
doing what he had to do, but he became indoctrinated with it.
But that's also something that is mirrored here. He was faking it to survive in this movie too, just in a different way.
Let me put up some pictures. Here's him and Calvin Candy. Calvin Candy is the big bad of the film, but he's sitting there equal. Look at the framing of that. There's no inferiority whatsoever. And in fact, he raised Calvin. So he is Calvin's father more than Calvin's father was. And you can tell based on the dialogue and their interaction that he let Calvin know ahead of time when he was probably a little boy, don't try the BS with me. That's why Calvin has his whole philosophy of 1 in 10,000. Bright boys, as he say, because he's still indoctrinated. He can't believe that it can be multiples. But I know that Stephen is not like that. And I actually love Stephen, but I can't love Stephen because that's not possible. So they call it something else. The same way with Sheba. He can marry any woman that he wants to, but he keeps Sheba around. And again, it's the peculiar nature, that peculiar relationship. Yes, that's America. That love-hate. I can't stand them. But to Chris's point, in that sense, you know, they created jazz, they created rock and roll, they created R&B, they created hip hop, they created rap. You know what I mean? We dominate in sports, in the sciences. We've done it all, despite everything that we've done to them. We hate them, but we can't stand them. When we segregate them, we want to see what they're doing. That's true to life. And we see it throughout these films. That's why Django became my favorite one. But when we talk about dialogue that just hits, I'm going to go back to this, Hateful Eight. It's about a hitman, not hitman, a bounty hunter. Here he is right here. And he's trying to catch Daisy Domergue. He's caught, and he's bringing her to town to hang. He's the hangman. And all his catches hang. Okay? And she's worth $10,000 by herself. So there's a blizzard coming, and they all have to stay in Minnie's haberdashery, which is really like a inn, a bed and breakfast almost, or whatever like that, except it's just one room. And they get there, and there's all these people in there. Here they go right there. We don't know who's friend or foe. We don't know what's going on. But the movie doesn't start with Marquise Warren, Sam Jackson's character. Okay? It starts with the hangman. And in that scene, when he comes upon Samuel L. Jackson, he doesn't let him on there, even though he recognizes him. It's only where he says he knows him from. And that comes back later when they talk about a Lincoln letter. But when they get to, and a slight spoiler alert for the film, for those who want to watch it, when they get to Minnie's haberdashery, we find out that Samuel Jackson knows what's going on from the moment they set foot off that coach.
Mm-hmm.
He knew exactly what was going on. He just needed to see how many people were in on it. And he says so in the dialogue. Whereas the hangman, who thought he was so bad and so tough and everything like that, didn't know what was going on whatsoever. And yet everybody's calling Sam Jackson the N-word. But Sam Jackson knows who he is. Whereas everybody calls Steven the N-word. And he accepted that's who I am. But I can be the best of the best. You see the difference? So in that movie, there's a scene when they're all sitting down and they're having stew. It's freezing outside, obviously. And they're having stew. And one of the other characters, played by Walter Goggins, who is fantastic in this movie, was also in Django Unchained. He calls out Major Marquise Warren. He's like, you don't really believe that he has a Lincoln letter. Now, this whole time, he's been telling people for years that he has a letter written by Abraham Lincoln to him, and they were pen pals. And Walter Goggins plays an ex-Confederate. And he says to the hangman, he goes, you think this man, this black dude, this N-word, has a Lincoln letter and that he was friends with Abraham Lincoln? Now, from our point of view, we think Abraham Lincoln, oh, he loved black people. But no, that's not the true history. Again, the dessert. Abraham Lincoln he didn't think that black people could live with white people. He wanted to send them back to Africa. That was his plan for Reconstruction. There's no way they could live. He just thought that if you could make one group of people slaves, you could make any. So that's what the Confederate is saying, I'm a Confederate. I fought for the other side, but even I know that. How don't you know that? And so, of course, the hangman, Kurt Russell, he asks him, is that true? And Sam Jackson looks at him with that smile on his face. And he said, well, yeah. And so Kurt Russell is upset. He says, well, it's true. We can't trust a single word you people say. And what does Sam Jackson say to him? It got me on that coach, didn't it? And Kurt Russell can't say a single thing. Because even though he's from the North and even though he fought on the quote unquote good side, he was going to let that man freeze to death in that blizzard. But only because he had that Lincoln letter, only because he disarmed white folks and let them believe in the mythology in their mind, was he safe. That verges almost on what Cat Williams was talking about.
Here we go.
So again, these movies are very, very layered. And if you realize that there's the steak and the sizzle, but there's the dessert, and he's the master of subtext, you really, really do appreciate it. Again, I go back to, they're the best horses in the world. They're the fastest. They're the most beautiful. They're worth thousands and thousands of dollars, and they're all white, but they're born black. I love that. I think we got a commercial break we need to go to.
Oh, that was your segue? Okay. All right, cool. We'll be right back.
Frank Lucas is the most dangerous man walking the streets of our city.
No black man has accomplished what the American mafia hasn't in 100 years.
We got a problem, man.
We can go anywhere we want.
And do what? Run, hide? This is my home. This is where my business is, my wife, my mother, my family. This is my country. I ain't going nowhere. I got Harlem. I took care of Harlem. So Harlem's gonna take care of me.
The contest has got to be about connecting with someone, connecting with the world. So we take it together?
Sure.
We are back.
Ready for next week. Ready Player One.
Ready Player One this Thursday.
I can tell you somebody who's not ready.
This Thursday, American Gangster. I don't know what that means. What are you talking about?
He's player two. He's upset.
Oh,
he doesn't get a choice. He doesn't get.
Yeah,
a chance.
I have to fight on the right side instead of the left. I can't stand that.
Chris, it's your positive energy that we love so much about you. Tonight we're talking about Tarantino in our first of our director's spotlight series. We got one hater, two lovers. Any final thoughts as we close out this episode?
Executive consultant. Final thoughts.
Let's talk about each movie that I had to listen to James just glorify for the past 3 hours, right? Apple Vision, you're not helping this movie by any okay. Anyway, Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2 is what I'm going to start with. And I'm going to be a man of few words. I'm just going to say this. Oh, hold on. I'm a man of a few words. I'm just going to say this.
66. Execute Order 66.
It shall be done, my lord, because I don't think any Django or Pulp Fiction will ever make me forgive him for Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2. So it's done. I've executed the order. And you have zero knowledge of what caps lock is, because I have no idea why you're screaming at me. Okay, go ahead, Shotty.
Thumbs down on Tarantino. The next Doctor, sir. What do you think about it?
I mean, as it's been already said, I love Tarantino movies. You know, I haven't seen them all, but of the ones I've seen, I've loved every one of them. You know, I've loved this, the ones I talked about, Pulp Fiction, Inglourious Bastards. You know, he wrote From Dusk Till Dawn, Death Proof. You know, I love that one as well. I mean, everything, the way that he can build worlds is spectacular. You know, he definitely sucks you into that world, makes you believe it, and entertains you for the entire time. there's not been a Tarantino movie that I have disliked, and I think that's because of his ability to, write excellent scripts and direct in a way that just really, showcases his talents, which is that dialogue, that world building through the dialogue. And yeah, I mean, everything has been a thumbs up for me for all of his stuff. I don't really know if that's the format I want to take with this, but I definitely would say, if there's a Tarantino movie you haven't seen, see it, especially the ones we talked about here. For all the reasons, give them a couple of watches, so you can digest, as James has mentioned, get a little bit of steak the first time, finish it, follow it up with that sizzle, and then get that dessert. Full meal right there. Tarantino. A little foot on the side. little foot on the side. A little foot on the side.
Can I get more foot?
He's gonna serve you up some foot. Believe that.
Chris has always been a hater, and I appreciate him for being true to himself. This above all. Shout out to Mike, who's been supporting us in these comments. Excuse me. And I think been spot on in this case. I'm a little jealous of doing American Gangster this Thursday. That's one of my favorites as well. Listen, I like Tarantino. He puts out a great product. He knows what he's doing. Okay. If I go on the metro and I hear people who look like me use the N-word, why am I going to be mad at somebody whose people invented it? I mean, it's their word. You know what I mean? So if anybody has a right to use it, controversially, it's them. That being said, he doesn't use it to denigrate. He uses it to highlight certain things. And when he highlights it, oftentimes, I can't think of any of the movies where we're not the smartest people in it. Again, starting with the first one, Jules is the only one who grew. He is the only character in that movie who grew. Okay? If you look at all his other movies, when you have black people, and it's not like, oh, just a walk-on role. No, they're heavily featured. They're the players. Okay? And to that end, if you compare that to any other movie that we might pick, whether it's from a single director or a genre of films or whatever like that, no, they're not. And they use the same word. They're not the smartest person, or the word is used rather. They're not the smartest person in the room. They're usually the buffoon. And so I find that to be the most egregious and most glaring difference between Tarantino and others, because he celebrates black people and black culture. And it's all throughout his work. I don't understand how it could be perceived as otherwise. And the fact that the word is used in public and he writes it on paper, that's not his fault. He's writing true to life. And I think that's why so many people, whether it's not 100% of them or not, so many people can appreciate the work and the truth and validity of it, because it's what we hear every single day. And as I've been saying for a long time on the show, it's quite American. So, of course, if I'm going to give it any vote on Tarantino, I'm going to say it's a thumbs up.
There you have it.
Now, Chris is playing Quick Draw McGraw tonight, and we want to thank him.
I don't know why you're saying that. You
usually you put the thumbs up, thumbs down, but you've been like,
I thought Next Doctor has been playing around with StreamYard lately. I thought he was going to do it. My bad. Let me go ahead and put your proper rating. All right. Quentin Tarantino.
There we go.
Hey, you like him? I don't see why.
I just told you for 3 hours.
I said I don't see it. I heard it. Right.
Take off the
4 hours now. 4 hours now. But to each their own. Ladies and gentlemen, we got a full week coming from UPRE. Tomorrow we have the Superman and Lois season 3 review, the last season that we're going to review for until season 4 comes out. On Friday, we have the Husband and Wife show, which is doing reviewing, Power Book season 3. And then next, also on Thursday, which I actually skip, American Gangster Vic's pick. We couldn't do it last Thursday. Bringing it to you this Thursday. Join myself, the Mark Victor Rodriguez, as well as Mike Knox. And Mike Knox will be here in all caps too. Next Tuesday, back here, Ready Player One. myself as well as James and the next Doctor as I hear, and I'm going to be here, and I'm going to be like, punching myself with a pencil the entire time because we have to actually see. I told you he's been practicing. We have to watch this movie, but next month, 2010's Ready Player One, also coming out. It will be The Sitter, as well as none other than whatever movie I picked. Battle of Los Angeles. I had to pick two, so I couldn't remember which one it was for the Tuesday's episodes, but looking forward to it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching us. Make sure that you subscribe to us here at Unpopular Review Entertainment and follow us on all our social media. So, as I cue up the music for...
Hey, quick question before we go out.
Sure.
For this Thursday's episode, did Vic watch that movie?
I have to watch that movie. I haven't watched that movie yet. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching us. We'll see you right here next time at Unpopular Review. Good night, everybody.